Hmm. Hello, Bowden. Yeah, it's going well. Just a matter of making progress. Uh, what the heck is going on? Why am I now getting an error? Why is this not triggering? Oh. Oh, that's not good. I think this is a bug that we've already seen. This is like an unfortunate position where things don't trigger the way they should. I have this, it's like some kind of off by 1 hour type of thing somewhere. So, gotta figure that out. What would be your go-to for learning Zig from the start, even if just mucking about coming from Rust? Mm, hmm. Can you explain slightly in more detail what you mean by mucking about coming from Rust? Just to explore. Okay. So you want to learn something, but like you're not necessarily ready to leave the Zig life, to become a Zig monk, move on a Zig mountain, and wake up every morning at the Zig sunrise and meditate Zig. I guess that's what you mean. Frankly, can't be a Rust monk and a Zig monk. It's always to know a different perspective. Yes. So I think that the most interesting stuff for you would be to experience the things that Zig does significantly differently than Rust, and to understand why that happens, which doesn't necessarily mean that you need to buy into that mindset. But, as you kind of are saying, it allows you to see a different perspective. I would argue that the best way to get that kind of experience is to try and work on a project that is data intensive or algorithmically intensive. So software that isn't, random ass functionality like a to-do list that you could totally do in TypeScript, vibe code it, and it would be fine, right? Some kind of software where the behavior of the program, as in, the behavior of the machine, kind of matters. On one hand. On the other hand, I think that you might also find interesting looking at things that have complicated life cycles, so that you can see what is life when you don't have distractors and you don't have linear lifetimes that get tracked automatically for you. So which, to be clear, doesn't mean that you should look into something that has dynamic lifetimes where you need to do ref counting. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that is a little bit complicated, but that also isn't necessarily super dynamic, so that you don't have to opt into ref counting, and instead you have to experience lifetime management just without the borrow checker. And here's a couple of ideas. Parsers, I think, are very interesting to do in Zig. Try to write a parser that is efficient. And here's my recommendation. Try to do a parser like this. No pointers, but instead indices into a slice, kind of like I'm doing here. My AST is a list of nodes. Nodes point to one another. I'm actually being kind of shitty in here because every node has a parent index, first child index, next index. In reality, of all these three indices, this one is unnecessary. This one is unnecessary. This one should be number of children. So like instead of having three indices, one index, which is not an index, it's like number of children, would be enough. So try to make your nodes small. Here's another idea. I'm using ArrayList, but I plan to do it. I just haven't been focusing on this. But if your interest is learning this kind of stuff, then you might want to prioritize this. And instead of using an array list, use a multi-array list. Or start with an array list and then switch to multi-array list and see if that makes a performance improvement. Actually, I have this in my to-do list somewhere in here. I have to turn some things into multi-array lists. Not the AST. I'm not ready yet to do this transformation, although I do want at some point to do this transformation, remove 2 indices, like kill them, and then see what happens. But I will apply this transformation to other stuff first, and I want to see if that makes a performance improvement. So try to use multi-array list. Parsers are great also because we have this... where do I use this? Give me a sec. I think in Mime. So here, you know how you have normally some parsing loops where you have a loop. I'm trying to find the right loop. Let me see. I might be misremembering and it wasn't here after all. And yet it really felt... Oh, you know what? No, it's not Mime. It's... oh, no. Well, I mean, I don't have... What parsers do I have? The Mime one, the daytime one, but the daytime one is new. Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no idea what this thing would be, what the right pronunciation is. Mime? I don't know. I'll go with Mime. God damn it, I can find it. Okay, let me see if I can find you another example. Was it Scripty? I think it's Scripty that I updated. Am I right or am I wrong? Am I right or am I wrong? Yeah, I'm right. So this used to be a while loop with a switch inside. So you loop over each character, or you have an index that you increase, decrease. There's a few different styles. Yeah, I think that's it. Yes. So for the parser, try out label switches because they're fucking awesome. The things that you can do with these bad boys, it's insane compared to, like, they solve elegantly and in a really performant manner things that you just cannot pull off with a while loop and a normal switch underneath, or I guess a normal match in your case, kind of stuff. In the case of Rust, I mean. But so these are cool. And yes, the other stuff would be interoperability. So for example, I don't know, play with some audio API, play with some graphics thing that you haven't done before. I would say these are probably the 2 best ways, but still, if unless you really hate parsers, I would probably start with a parser, because these things are, they're fairly fundamental, and there's a lot to appreciate, in my opinion, by learning how to do parsers and doing them, efficiently, particularly efficiently. Also because I suspect it's not something that is particularly well understood in the Rust ecosystem. And I'm basing this assertion on my experience at SquiggleConf, where I was at SquiggleConf, and in there were there were some people from V0, which is I think it has to do with Vercel. They're basically writing JavaScript tooling in Rust, and they were like, they were very proud of their parser being, their tooling being, blazingly fast. and I found it kind of underwhelming because they didn't even know about the array list trick. What they were doing was still using pointers, but using an arena allocator instead of a normal allocator. And so, yes, if you use an arena allocator to allocate nodes, you're kinda getting somewhat vaguely speaking, the kind of benefits that you get from an array list, but it's less rigorous, and you're using still 8-byte big pointers instead of 4-byte big indices. And that's a design choice, to be fair. Like you will limit your file size to 4 gigabytes if you do that. Although, to be fair, yeah, text formats should not be bigger than 4 gigabytes, in my opinion. If you want to go, I would even argue that if you want to get anywhere near 4 gigabytes, you should switch to a binary protocol, or like a binary format, in my opinion. So what is my point? I guess my point is that it felt like they were like at the beginning of this journey of learning how to do these things better, and they still had a long way to go. And I'm guessing that they are, I'm sure that out there must be some people that do Rust and know these things significantly better, but also they probably weren't the least knowledgeable people ever. So it might be a thing that you can steal from another ecosystem, basically. You know how sometimes other ecosystems, for one reason or another, they end up learning one thing or two particularly well, and you can steal their ideas. Like C#, for example, in Microsoft, it's a barren land in many ways, but they do have occasionally cool ideas that are worth stealing. Occasionally. So that would be my suggestion. If you want to have more examples with regards to interop, we can talk about that. But really, I do think that as a starting point, parsers are pretty cool and useful. Okay, what are we trying to do here? Okay, so here we have this problem. The last element doesn't get checked as it should. Whose fault is this? We need to understand whose fault is this. I think it's the main loop in AST, validate nesting. That is my suspicion. While node index is different than 0 and node index is lower than nodes.len -1. Does anybody see a problem with this condition here? I wrote it. And I took the extra care of adding this -1 in here. I don't know sometimes why I do the things that I do. It's kind of like the crazy murderer, like having a brief moment where they wonder, why do I have this compelling need to chop people up, eat their intestines and whatnot. And like they have this brief moment of clarity, and then they go back into chopping or whatever they do. And it's like, I briefly think about, wait, why did I took the extra care to put a wrong -1 in here? Yeah, I don't know. Let's go back to adding bugs to my code. So there you go. I think that was it. Okay, missing child span. That is indeed correct. Let's add something that isn't span, div. So that's fine, but we're still missing span. Okay, let's add span. Also, wait, I'm calling it span, but it's not span. It's summary. Okay, let's add the summary. This might not work. Oh no, it does work. Summary. Element in row position should be first. Let's move it first. We're happy. Let's move it back here. Let's add the second one. Element in row position should be first. Duplicate child first. Duplicate child. First child must be summary. Wait. This duplicate child has a reason that makes no sense. Okay. That was a copy-paste error. Okay, duplicate child. Get rid of one. Put it back here. Put a second one here. Okay. Only that one. Remove this one. Okay. Details is done. Well, we need to implement this. We need the attributes and we need the description. So still some work to do, but the core validation, the funkiest stuff is done. So we need name and open. Open is Boolean. Name of group of mutually exclusive details elements. Oh, that's cool. Hey, Maniac. Just wanted to say I was looking at Zine. It seems pretty good. I'm thinking to use it for my app's website. App is a TUI in itself, though. Kudos. Go for it. Go for it, especially if it's a Zig project. Like if your app is a Zig project. Or more specifically, here's what I mean by that. It's based on Go. Then never mind. Wait. Why are you not using Hugo? No, but I'm joking. So the idea is this, though. The reason why I started working on Zine is because or actually, let me say it the other way around. I have spent a considerable amount of time of my time working at the Z Software Foundation, working on Zine. So in a sense, it's an official project. It's not like a ZSF project. It's on my GitHub repository. It has my design decisions in it, etc. But it was designed originally so that or rather, one of the reasons why it was designed, what it was created, is so that basically Zig projects that are serious enough could have to make it easier for serious Zig projects to make a website so that they could get more users, so they could get more more exposure. Okay, setting that aside, go do that. So setting aside the Zig stuff, go do that, because having a website for your project, if you're even mildly serious about it, it does help make it more, feel more serious and get more eyeballs on it. So it's just a good idea. And if you encounter trouble, join the Zig Discord. Not the Zig Discord. My Discord server. It's linked in the community section of the Zine website. And there's a channel dedicated to Zine where you can ask questions about, how to do stuff, why doesn't this work, etc., etc. Nice. Let's see. I don't have a lot of experience with SSGs and the concept of Super HTML. Just nice to give Zine a try. Yeah, sure. Give it a try. Be aware that it's not as mature as Hugo is. I think that if you're making just a website for an application, kind of like Zine itself has its own website, then it's a REST API client. Nice. Okay, so I have a question for you. Who do you plan to sell it to? You know that all these things are like they have their destiny is to get bought by a shitty company that ruins them, and then a new one is born after a while. If I can make a suggestion, I would say Oracle. I think that the previous examples, they all sold to awful companies, but you still have the opportunity of getting the worst company involved. So think about that. The Z Foundation. What do you mean? Pauline uses MIT. Nice. Nice. In any case, I think that a TUI client of this kind would be cool. I think it's a nice move because. So I'm not a super serious user of this stuff. I used them in the past, back when I was doing more web development. At my company, we had like Postman with all the pre-made like requests so that you could test APIs on your computer. But after that, I haven't done it much, but I have used it a little bit. And I do think that TUIs have a good balance between portability and like if you spend some effort making the TUI nice, then you can have like a decent enough experience using it. Let's take a look. Nice. Pi SSG. Nice. Okay. Cool. I feel like I have this feeling that the font is sometimes not helping you too much. I don't know if it's the font or if it's something else. Let me see if I can bring up what I was looking at. Like I wonder if you can highlight more than just the central part of these buttons. And also this checkbox is small, but this, by the way, this is like they're just very small nitpicks that may be related to the font. Maybe even regardless of the font, you can find a way of representing things in a nicer way. In any case, cool project. Backend is ready. TUI is getting us up. We're doing the TUI. I see. But wait, doesn't Go have a decent TUI library? What is it called? Bubble Tea, maybe? What's the one that everybody uses? Yeah, Bubble Tea. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, if in the future you decide to try your hand with Zig, I would say don't do this today. Or you know what? Maybe you'll never want to do this. But if at some point you get Zig curious, we have this. We have libvaxis, which should be pronounced libvaxis. It's the creator always complains that I mispronounce the project's name. In any case, think of it. Well, I mean, it's the Zig. So far, it's the most serious Zig TUI library that I can think of. Here's what it has going for it. It has very good multi-platform support, especially when it comes to compatibility with like terminals that have like maybe wonky support for things. It does have a widget system, so you can create widgets that support interactions like clicking, scrolling, and then the parent redirects the interaction to the child, and you have also layouting. I suspect compared to Bubble Tea is a bit more low level in the sense that I suspect that you might need to make your own widgets for things that aren't. I mean, like for example, text boxes. Super gnarly stuff to do yourself is done for you. There are editable text boxes in boxes, but it might be a little bit more work, more manual than Bubble Tea, I suspect. I do use Vaxis. Sorry, I keep doing it. I do use Vaxis for Borg here, but I only use the super low level API because I want to do all the rendering myself for Borg, or at least this is how it's been up until now. Yeah, but in any case, this stuff will become interesting only once we are gonna have the cool async IO stuff in Zig. So until we have that, you will definitely have a better time with Go. Once we have async in Zig, it's gonna be less clear cut. Let me just put it that way. Okay, so let's put a description to details. Yeah, don't worry. Especially when it comes to a open source project, the promotion is not a problem. Let's see, the details HTML elements creates a disclosure widget in which information is visible only when the when the widget is toggled into an open state. A summary label must be provided using the summary element. A disclosure widget is typically presented on screen using a small triangle that rotates or twists to indicate open-closed state. Why are they specifying or twists? The contents of the summary element are used as the label of the disclosure widget. The contents of the details provide accessible description for the summary. Okay. So we are missing the attributes and the auto-completion. Which one do I do first? Let's do the attributes. They look kind of easy. So who do we steal attributes from? Maybe data? Yeah, let's steal from data. Okay, so one is open and it's a Boolean attribute. Let's copy the description. Note, you have to remove this attribute entirely to make the details hidden. Open equals false makes the details visible because the attribute is Boolean. Yeah, I know. In my case, I don't need this explanation because I'm going to mark this as an error if you attempt any of that shit. Because I know what a Boolean attribute is. Let's see, I actually manage my family business as a full-time work and I like coding on the side. Nice. So I'm just trying to get better with whatever time I get. Not gonna lie, AI hype to build things got to me, but I'm slowly getting away from it. There is a well, I don't know what your life experience has been, and I don't know what led you to Go specifically. But I think that Go is already an example of a programming language where how can I say? Well, basically, generally speaking, Go tends to be a programming language where you don't have a ton of, fancy features. It's mostly dedicated to implementing what you need to implement in a simple way, roughly speaking. It's definitely not the perfect programming language. There's a lot of very valid criticism that can be raised against Go. But if you appreciate what Go gives you, continue working down that path because there is certainly a lot of satisfaction that you can find by focusing on not doing things just by importing dependencies and letting the AI randomly add crap to what you're doing. So Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Maybe explore also some of that if you want. But I can guarantee you that there is a lot to enjoy by aiming for mastery of software engineering. And I do think that you can do that even if you don't program profession, if you're not a professional software engineer because you're doing other stuff. Case in point, I would even argue that the majority of people, almost the totality of people that have a day job as programmers, what they do at their job is antithetical to what good programming is. They are actually unlearning how to be good software engineers at their daily job. Like if you work front end, good fucking luck, my friend. You work at a Microsoft company, you're doing C#, you're toast. There's nothing good for it. There's almost nothing good for you to learn there. So the fact that you do other stuff doesn't really put you at a disadvantage versus the vast majority of professional software engineers. What does the counter mean? Hey, Bifredo, no. You know what? Hopefully, no. The counter is, it's kind of like my you know what? Element nesting errors. Let's put it this way. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. HTML element Pokédex. basically, I'm implementing all the HTML elements. They are 115, I believe, and I'm almost halfway through. So I hope that it will take me less than 115 sessions to get to the end. Yeah, it's the logic for each element, precisely. Logic and, metadata like cutesy description, links to the docs, other metadata that hopefully, that thankfully has been, how can I say, like the logic has been extracted out so that you just specify some flags and you don't have to program every single element from scratch. But some do still have their own custom rules. So for example, this one requires having a summary element first, followed by what they define as flow content. So yeah. I saw that you're manually copying the description for each element from the end, but what if they change? So the way this works is that, well, first of all, you don't really want the language server to make a network call to fetch this information, I believe. To be fair, you know what? You could program it that way if you wanted to. It's a legitimate trade-off, I think. That said, that's not what I want, so I'm happy to bake it into the executable and update it if they change it in the future. But in general, this shouldn't change much. And if they do, then the spec has changed probably. And if the spec has changed, then the behavior of my program might also need to change. So for example, this is not a realistic one that I'm about to say, to bring up as an example, but let's say that the authors of HTML decide that, you know what, details needs summary and then needs a summary 2. Like needs a second mandatory summary element. Yes, the description will have changed, but then we also need to change the validation logic. How are you going to know that something that changed? Somebody will open an issue on my repo. Yeah, that's how it's going to be. To be clear, though, HTML is extremely backwards compatible. So they are never going to enact a change like the one that I just described. There will be things that get added, that kind of stuff. But for the vast majority of people, this is kind of it. in reality, I would suspect that if anything, like the most probable reason for me to want to change this text eventually is just to make it better, to basically improve the description using my own words rather than what the MDN says. That's mostly it. And in any case, that's also why I provide you with links, so that, you know, if you need extra stuff or this is unclear or, you know, you suspect that things might have changed, then you click the link. Like you will see the link in here. So like you do space K in this case, space K. Why is it empty? Oh, because I haven't because I just pasted it and I haven't rebuilt. So you see the description, and here you see also the links. Now, Helix is not able to render these links in here. It could, but it doesn't know how to. So if you go to, not Discord, but if we go to VS Code, for example, VS Code has that in theory. I haven't built the WebAssembly version in a bit, so let me do that. Let's build the WebAssembly version. There we go. Run it, and now I can do mouse over. So for example, what was it? Details. So mouse over details, and I see the description, and here you see these links are clickable. So that's the idea. Let's see, this Boolean attribute indicates whether the details, that is, the contents of the details element, are currently visible. The details are shown when this attribute exists or hidden when this attribute is absent. By default, this attribute is absent, which means the details are not visible. This is not bool, this is bool. Next. Open, and the other one was name, I believe. And this one should be, I think it's any. Or no, I think it should be not empty. Because if you specify it, it should be not empty, I think. Let's see, name. Blah, 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 blah. Auto should consider whether this grouping of related details elements into an exclusive accordion is helpful or harmful to users. Blah, 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 blah. Is this the thing that tells me the syntax? They just don't say anything about the syntax. They don't say if this thing could be left empty or not. Oh, there we go. If the attribute is specified, its value must not be the empty string. So I was right. Have a good one. So I was right. So not empty is what we want. Copy the description. You know what? We're going multi-line for this one, I think. There we go. Okay. So we're only missing completions. So here's what I would do. If it's empty, I would say if it doesn't have children, we suggest summary. Only summary. Only summary or summary and then everything else at the top. And then we just leave it to errors. That is indeed a good question. So we need some of this logic still because we need to know if it has a summary or not. So we basically all we're doing is trying to ask the question: do we have a summary or not? Yeah, we really don't care about any of these other stuff, and it's like this. Okay, so with this we know if it has a summary. So if not has summary, I would say normal completions with summary up top. Yeah. So something like this: return element dot simple completions arena prefix. Parent content, right? Details dot model dot content. Parent reject, none. Simple, nothing. There we go. Okay, so everything that works under flow. Without summary, and then everything that works under flow. Okay, that sounds good. Well, we have this. We have the attributes. We have the attribute descriptions. We forgot to wire in the attributes. No, you're joking. Come on, man. Where are my attributes? Where are open and name? Why are they not showing up at the top? This is static. Oh, I didn't restart probably. Yeah. Open, name. Perfect. Perfect. Hmm. Done. 42. Dialogue. Let's go. So we're skipping the FN because it's already done technically. Let's take a look at the FN just to be sure. Then we like what we see in here. Yeah. That's it. Okay. So dialogue it is. Flow, flow. 2 attributes. I think we can copy the FN. Oh no. So this is a problem. And good thing that we caught this. Okay, so that part is now correct. This we reset. It's flow and flow. Content is what the model says. As with all HTML elements, it is not conforming to use a dialog element when attempting to represent another type of control. For example, context menus, tooltips, all these boxes. So using the dialog element to implement those patterns is incorrect. Okay. So we just need to worry about these 2 attributes: closed by and open. Hello, Infinite Coder. I'm glad. I hope you enjoyed your ad. Okay. So open Boolean attribute indicates that the dialog element is active and the user can interact with it. Cool. Close by is an enumerated attribute with the following keywords and states: any, close request, none. Okay, what was that? Closed by. Thank you for the cheer. Although be aware that cheering doesn't go directly to the ZSF. It goes to me. It's actual charity donations that go to the ZSF. Okay, so list is gonna be dot label and then dot desk, right? Okay, what are our options? Any, close request, none. Okay, we don't know anything else about these guys, so let's see what MDN has to say about this. Guess we can copy this description and start placing it here. Okay. Okay. The tabbing attribute must not be used in on this element. Interesting. Does the spec say the same? The tab index attribute must not be specified on dialog elements. But I bet you that tab index is one of the global attributes. Indeed. So they lie. So the following attributes are common and may be specified on all HTML elements. That's a fucking lie. That's a complete fucking lie. Thankfully, we can deal with this stuff. So hello X2. You arrived right on time for the latest spec bullshit. Okay, so we have close by. Uh, do, 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 do. Nah, I think it's fine. Okay, we're missing attribute validation. Okay. So what's our goal here? Our goal here is literally just to enforce this. Okay, how does this work? Uh, while VIT next GPA source after model equals utter dot attributes dot get utter dot name dot slice source name, or else if global if attribute dot global dot index name if idx is attribute dot global dot com time index tab index try errors dot append invalid attribute. Oh, this is bad because it means that we're going to suggest tab index even though you can't put it there. But man, this is such a weird corner case. God damn it. Tag invalid attribute. Main location author.name node idx node idx continue. Else try errors.append and it's actually basically the same. No invalid attribute, invalid author, right? Invalid author nesting. No, invalid author value, invalid author combination. We could use this one to give a reason, but I mean, it's fine. There you go. There we go. We now have validation for tab index, I believe. Mm, there we go. Invalid attribute for this element. I'll take it. 43. We're getting there. Oh man, still so much to do, but we are getting there. Div is gonna be gnarly because Div has a bunch of custom logic to it. This motherfucker. These motherfucker. So Div, huh? What widely available? Well, good to know. Look at my boy Div. Look at what they did to him. If the element is a child of a DL element, one or more DT elements followed by one or more DD elements, optionally intermixed with script supporting elements. Otherwise, if the element is a descendant of an option element, zero or more option element inner content elements. Otherwise, if it's opt group inner content elements. Otherwise, if it's select, zero or more select inner content elements. Otherwise, low content. HTML Jesus, please help me. What about the target making it deprecated like fenced frame I see in your list? I don't have deer. I do have fenced frame, but I think the fenced frame is not deprecated. I think it's experimental. So deer, I'm skipping. Yeah. I have fenced frame, but I don't know. We'll see once we get there. It seemed pretty much the same as iframe, I think. You know, with what font is deprecated but too common. Or if it's deprecated, it's not getting in. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. If it's deprecated, then if you use this shit, then you will have to edit your file. If you use my LSP, you'll have to fix it. And if you don't, then you don't use my tool. Which, to be clear, that's the stance that I'm using for this case. For other cases, obviously, I don't want to be too annoying for, just no reason whatsoever. But in this case, I think it's fair. Okay, let's do div. So div is flow content. Select opt-grouped option inner element contents. In our case, it's flow. So we're not tracking these guys. And I don't think it's necessary to track these guys. But you know what? I might be wrong. Maybe we'll need to track those. So we'll see. Jesus. So here's how I think we're going to do it. We don't do any dynamic attribute validation. So even though I did copy this, we're not doing this. Also, does it have attributes? Does it have special attributes? At least it doesn't have special attributes. So at least we got that. So attributes static, but content is not model. Yeah, but that's how it has to be. Okay. So let's take a look at these insane rules. We need to take a look at the parent. The problem is that parent IDX is us. I'm gonna call this div IDX for clarity. Although this is, you know what? Let's do it like this. Because it's parent everywhere else. So let's do it like this. Parent equals nodes parent IDX const GP is nodes at parent dot parent IDX. Switch GP dot kind. And we use this to know what? Basically which case we are in. State is enum. And the enum says can be child of a DL. Descendant of an options element, not a child, a descendant. Never mind. So here's how it works. Var ancestor IDX. Oh, there's an ambulance. Sorry, making noise. Okay, so ancestor idx parent dot parent idx. While ancestor is different than 0, ancestor is nodes ancestor idx. Defer ancestor idx equals ancestor dot parent idx. Okay, with this we keep going up. Then what we're doing here, we basically need to break with the state that we're going to be in, right? So enum is going to be, so we said DL option opt group select flow. What do you not like about this? Oh, column. There we go. Okay, so we keep going up. We don't find anything. Then else is flow. That's going to be our state. Otherwise, switch ancestor.kind. So if it's the L, break with .dl. If it's option, break with option. If it's opt group, break opt group. Else, do nothing. Keep going up. I guess we can do continue. There you go. Kind of superfluous, but gives the idea. So we keep going up until we find one of these guys, or we get to the root node. And once we do, we will know what the state is. So switch state. Although, to be fair, well, let's reread this. So if we are a child of a DL element, also a child, if we're not, if we are a descendant of a DL element. So here the L needs kind of to be checked only the first time. So if ancestor idx is parent.parent idx, so it's the first time that we do this loop, and ancestor.kind is .dl, break dl. Otherwise, I think we're supposed to ignore it because this is a child, not a descendant. That's what they say. I'm sure that it's not as they say, but that's what they say. So, yeah, let's see. One or more DT elements followed by one or more DD elements, optionally intermixed with scripting supporting elements. Option element, 0 or more option element inner content elements. 0 or more, 0 or more otherwise flow content. I'm thinking that we should maybe dispatch to different functions, or at the very least, I think we need an outer switch, because we could have the switch on the outside, but then it would be weird. So yeah, switch on the outside. Hello, Vini, Meu. Switch state. Okay, DL, flow. Then in the middle we have opt, option. I think that these guys in the middle, oh, there's also select, right? Maybe these ones in the middle that look very similar, we could have one implementation and then switch out the set of element tags that we're happy with. That is indeed an option. This one up top has weird rules, so it needs to be implemented manually. And the one at the bottom is like very straightforward. So let's do the flow one because this one is the most straightforward one. Child IDX is parent. Child IDX, while child IDX is different than 0. Const child equals nodes child IDX. So what do we do for a child? If child.model.categories.flow, if not, then try errors.append tag invalid invalid nesting. Span is parent span, which we don't have. Let's make it const parent span. Parent span search. Okay, so this is flow validation done. Then we have DL validation, which is going to be super weird. So we're going to need to do this for sure. But then, so one or more DT elements followed by one or more DD elements, optionally intermixed with script supporting elements. So we're going to have a state. DL state enum. So basically, it's what we're looking for. We're looking for DT or DD. That's it, right? Yeah. And we start with searching for DTs. So child, if child.kind, actually switch child.kind, switch child.kind option intermixed with script supporting elements. So script supporting elements are script and template. So find one of those, skip them. Otherwise, we continue. So if child.kind, so now we switch state. The DL state, sorry. Actually, do we keep around this state? Yeah, okay, so DL state DT. If child.kind is equal to DD, then we're gonna need something around this, I think. So if child.kind is DD, then DL state equals dot DD. Else, if child.kind is dot, actually we'll do it this way. So if it's DT, do nothing. If it's DD, we switch. Otherwise, it's an error. There we go. If the state is DD, we basically want kind of to do this again. If it's DT, it's an error, but we make it a special error. Um, oh, we're also missing the span from here. If it's DT, we complain. If it's DD, we do nothing. Otherwise, we complain that it's invalid nesting. Plain and simple, no reason. So there we go. So with this, DT is implemented. Now we need these three guys. I think we basically collapse them into one implementation. I think, and then we just swap out some code, I think. And some data basically for the specific case. And I think that for this reason, I'm gonna move them to the bottom. Option intermix with script supporting elements, yes. Okay, if in each one of these cases, here's what we do. We do this. And in here we do, well, we need to learn what these what these things are, right? So div and phrasing content. The following are excluded. Data list, object, interactive content, and elements with tab index. Oh my fucking god. Ugh. So it's not just a matter of setting up acceptance. We also have to set up rejection. This is complicated. This is complicated because, oh my god. Okay. I'm not sure we can squish these guys anymore because they're a bit custom at this point. Okay, so this guy works like this. What about opt group? So opt group has option, script supporting elements, no script, and div. What about select? Option, opt group, HR, script supporting elements, no script, div. Oh, so this is very similar than this one. This one is the only one that it's a bit bitchy. Also, this one has, these are all tags basically. This one has categorization interactions. So you know what? We're merging these two guys and leave options option as a separate one. So these two guys I think are similar enough. So for each child, we say option, script supporting elements, no script div. Okay, so basically this is the core. Option script template, no script div. So we're fine with those. Then we have opt group and HR. And this one's is like this. If state is equal to, what was it? Select opt group, which is the one that likes it. Select. If the state is select, then continue. Otherwise, we need to error out. Perfect. And this is actually it. For these guys, this is it. Options is the one that it's a bitch. Man. So that one is... Okay, this is the one that requires extra care. No, wait, we're missing else. That's how it should be. We put this outside, and then we say continue, continue. Otherwise, we fall through. And if we fall through, it's invalid nesting. Perfect. Okay. Option. Option. Okay, so option. It's fine with div praising content, but rejects data list. Object. So I guess first we do the rejections. So data list object. Okay, let me think how we want to structure this. So those two things, or being interactive, I think we're gonna need an if statement for this. I think we're gonna need something like this. So if it's data list or it's object or it's interactive, so child dot model dot categories dot interactive. So if it or is interactive, elements with tab index. Although in those cases we kind of want to explain it. Maybe not for interactive. Uh for interactive, kind of yes. We would like to explain that we basically would need a reason to do that. Is this a model reject situation? I think this is a model reject situation. I think this is a model reject situation where basically it's not really about categories. It's about, but it's model that has this definition, right? No, model doesn't have that. It's categories that has this. Wait, who has model rejects? Element has model rejects. Oh, right, because it needs reasons and stuff. And that is annoying because if we do this, I guess we can make a mutable copy of ourselves. What's model reject? Rejects. Parent node, parent span. Descendant element. Descendant runtime model. Okay, so here we have the case where we do have a rejection that we need to process. And otherwise, we can do also this one down here. Although at this point, but this is model rejects, this is not simple rejects. So rejecting based on specific names, we still need to do manually. Okay, give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm back. And this is continue. Okay, so if data list or object, so we have everything. We just need to allow now. We are allowing phrasing content, but we are not allowing div. We're fine with div. We reject based on this model. We reject based on those special thingies. This should be all of it. Horrible, but this should be all of it. Crazy. This would have been insane to implement without this latest cool stuff that we engineered. Okay, let's see how we do. Not doing great with suggestions. So A is fine. Why are, oh, right. We're not doing great with suggestions because we turned them off. Right, of course. Let's test the various situations. So if you are a child of a DL element, oh shit, we renamed the other one? Oh, that's bad. We need to fix renaming. So the problem is that not a valid HTML element has the wrong node index attached to it. That's the problem. Not a valid HTML element. Where do we do this? Valid HTML tag name. Current IDX plus 1. Why do we think in here the current IDX? Like, so let me remove the plus 1 so that we can see the behavior change in theory. Yeah. Now we're changing this one instead of this one because it's one less. Why is it so outdated? Why is it not plus 1? That's an interesting question. That's the same index that we're using also here. So we're writing down the wrong index always. I guess maybe should be plus 2. But even if it were plus 2, that does not explain. So this is current index. It's on canvas. I guess the value that we put here depends on this, on the direction. Hmm. I mean, yeah, what are you going to do? It's plus 1 either way, isn't it? So here we write down plus 1 and then, oh, maybe that's what we should do. Maybe that's what we should do. Okay. So the L. Now it's invalid nesting under div. Right, because this div right now, it's because of this. Like this we're fine. Like this it's a problem. I think that we should maybe say something. Let's see. When div is in one of those weird states, we should say something like under div. Let's see. Here we're saying invalid nesting reason. Div under the L only accepts dt dd script or template. Oh, and this goes inside here. and this is an equal sign. Uh, there we go. So let's see if we see something now. Invalidation under div. Div under DL only accepts DT, DD, script, or template. Also, this should be invalid nesting under, and then it should be tags. Where is it? Invalid nesting under, invalid nesting under. There you go. I typed script. Thank you. Thank you very much. You know what? We don't need to repeat this. So as a child of the L, it only accepts DT, DD, script, or template. Okay, so we have this. Invalid nesting under div. DT elements must go before all others. So yeah. Okay. Perfect. Then there is the flow case. This one is normal. This is the normal case, so we don't give explanations. This is another weird one, where these are the only ones that we accept. So if the state is select, what is going to be the reason? As descendant of select, it only accepts option, script, template, no script, or div. Well, actually, this is the other one. As a descendant of select, it accepts those. Let's say opt group, HR, option script, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is the explanation. Okay. Option is truly fucked up. But it does give you reasons. So let's see. It should give you reasons. Or not. Maybe it does not. It just says invalid nesting under div. Okay, what about something interactive? So A, href. So A should be fine. and it is href invalid nesting under div, presence of href. We got it. We could say that if there is no stated reason, then we explain that, you know what, option is so complicated that, well, this is good enough, I think. Okay, so we have some explanations. We have all the checking. We're missing completions. Oh boy, are we missing completions. So we need to copy the other implementation, basically, gut it out from the error reporting, and then turn that into suggestions. Okay. We don't need the parent span. We do want to look at the ancestor to see what state we're in. So let's do the straightforward ones. Flow state, then we just recommend flow, so return element dot simple completions arena prefix is empty. Parent content is flow equals true. Parent reject is none. And there's nothing in simple. So this is it. This is what we do for flow. Now, for DL, it's complicated because for DL, we need this state. We need to know where we are, but we need to care about where our mouse cursor is. Well, not mouse cursor, where the typing cursor is, because depending where it's located, we need to change what we auto suggest. So we need to implement this. And that's going to be a tiny adventure. So our state is going to be basically where we are up to the cursor. And then we need to know var after cursor optional ast.kind. Or I think we were doing root or something. No, optional is fine. Okay. So script, if we see script and templates, that says nothing to us. Also, if child.open the start is after offset, we'll also create a CLI linter mode. Yeah, it already has it. 100%. It already works. I haven't wired in all the new fancy error messages, but for example, you see that right now we have these 3 errors, right? So I'm gonna write and close. And so I do super HTML, check test.html, and you see that it prints the 3 errors. But as I said, for now, I'm just printing the enum case. I don't have the nice printing, but it's just a matter of, it's in my list here of things to do. So right now I'm just checking the LSP because it's, it's the superset. It's the more fancy behavior. But then it, pretty much the same printing code that you see here is the one that I'll use for the CLI. With one difference, that in the CLI, in the LSP, when you get wrong something that is from a list of options, I don't tell you what the options are because you can explore them on your own. But I think that in the CLI, if you mess up, for example, a attribute that has a list of possible options, I will tell you what those options are in a note line so that you can see from the CLI some information. Okay. Okay, so this is it. After this, we have to decide. So what the question is, do we suggest DT, DD, or both? So start by switching the else state. Okay, in the DD case, it's easy. It's just DD. If it's DT, then there's a question that we need to ask. Is there a DT after or not? Man, making this optional kind of sucks, you know? I think we can give it a better default. Let's give it a DD default. And you know what? Also, here's another good thing that we can do. So here's how it works. If it's DD, we return all 1 to the end. If it's DT, and after cursor is DT, we return all 0. One, else, You know what? We can pull the the return outside. There you go. We basically slice this guy. Okay, so we should have completed the L. We now have to deal with these two cases down here. Oh god, the last one is going to be nasty. So this one has, well, basically these guys are the options. So we don't switch anything. So here's what we do. Let's make the full list. And then we slice it. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I kind of wish there was like an easy way to make one of these from a list of thingies. Maybe I can do that. You know what? Time to do some metaprogramming, I guess. Mm, there you go. So select is the superset. Okay, option is going to be nasty. So option, I think we need to use simple completion. Basically, we need to do this. Then we need to do a simple completion for that. No prefix. Parent content. Element content. Parent reject. And then the simple stuff where we do allowed children, and that's .div. And then we have forbidden children, which are data listen object. I think there's more stuff that we need to fix, but that's the gist of it. There's also the extra stuff. How did you get ZLS to show you the errors properly? For me, it seems to miss a lot of the basic invalid things that LSP should usually catch. You need to have ZLS to be able to run your project. The way it works is that ZLS is unable to run comp time for you because it's not the Z compiler. But you can set up ZLS so that it executes the build of your project. So if it, I guess here's my question: does your project have a build.zig? Do you have a correctly set up build.zig? If you don't, then get yourself one. That's the starting point. Yes. Okay. So then the second problem is ZLS actually running your project or not? So for ZLS to run your project, there are two ways you can make this happen. To do build on save. So I'm on the ZLS docs page. They have a build on save section, and they tell you, oh, how can you make this happen? There are two ways. One is that you have a check step in your build script, and the second one is that you enable build on save in the ZLS config options. So let me explain what's happening. This will be made better and automatic. You will not have to mess with it anymore. Well, let's say in the normal case in the future, because Zig will be will have incremental builds and it will be able to do rebuilds instantly. So by default, I think that at that point ZLS will be able to turn this feature on by default, and there's nothing to worry about anymore. But to give you an idea, so if ZLS can run Zig build for you, then it can report errors. But the problem is that builds, they can be slow. As I said, with incremental, they won't be slow anymore, but for now they can be slow. So one way of making this nicer is to create a check step. The idea of a check step is that it's a build that does not try to install the executable. Here you can see that there is a module being defined. Then there's an executable being defined that uses that module. But this executable is being installed. Then there's another executable being defined, which is exactly the same as this other one. But look, this one does not get installed. So what does that mean? That an executable that doesn't get installed, if you bind it to a step, it will cause semantic analysis to happen, but it will not invoke the linker. So you basically are creating a step that does the build up to semantic analysis, and then it doesn't try to emit any code. So this is why check is good. So if you set up a check step, ZLS will run it automatically. Alternatively, if you don't set it up, then you can enable build on save, and ZLS will just run basically zig build, the default step for you, every time you save a file. And so that way you will get all the error messages from ZLS that you can get from it. In the future, the zig compiler will have a way of exposing information about the build to language servers in a more interactive manner. So you will not have to. So what I mentioned earlier, the fact that once incremental is out, then the build will be easier to do. That's going to be like an intermediate step. But the final step is going to be that the zig compiler will also provide this information to language servers, but it's going to be a while before we get there. In the meantime, build on save is the way to go. Okay, let's see if our autocomplete is cool now. So we're under option. And we don't see any. Did I restart the server? Okay, so under option, we don't have any suggestion. Under the L, do we have any suggestion? We don't have suggestions. What is going on? The fact that this is empty is bad. This is empty as well. Wait, oh, that's on me. I restarted the editor and that turns off auto completion. There we go. DT and DD. Also, check this out. If you don't make any mistake, then it will be like this. Since we are above DT, it only suggests DT. But then we go in the middle and it suggests both. And then we go after DD and it only suggests DD. So this is delightful. This is the experience that we want. So this is good. Let's do option. Option suggests a bunch of stuff. It does suggest div. It doesn't. Object is not fine. That's cool. It's correct that it suggests A because A is unwanted only when it does have href. So that's fine. Let's do select. HR opt group option script template div. Perfect. So we have kick-ass auto-completion for div. The only thing that's missing, the description. And then we are going to be at 44 elements. Not bad, I would say. Okay. We have div. Not bad. Not bad at all. And so with this, we can go to element. Go to div, give it done, and go to 44. We did it. Okay. Maybe we can do the LNDT today. Maybe I'm being too optimistic and they actually are way more complicated than I think they are. I guess we'll see. But I think it's going to be something like this and then we stop there. Okay, the L. Yeah, I might be too optimistic. I think that the L is more complicated. Let's see. Flow content. If the elements children include at least one. Okay, so poppable content. Thank God we don't care about poppable content. Either 0 or more groups, each consisting of one or more DT elements followed by one or more DD elements. So it's the DD, DT, DD state, but cyclical. Optionally intermixed with script supporting elements, or one or more div elements optionally intermixed with script supporting elements. Uh-huh. Okay. So what do we need to do in this case? Basically, we need to do the TDD. Also, you know what's funny? So think about it this way. Actually, you know what? I was getting memed by this fucking spec. But actually, in reality, we're fine as long as what we see are DTs and DDs. Because, yeah, one or more DT elements followed by one or more DD elements. And that means that any combination of DT, DD is going to be valid. Like DT, DD, DD, that's one DT followed by two DDs. DT, DT, DD, that's two DTs followed by one DD. And basically from this you can rebuild, you can build the universe of DTs, DDs, all the combinations. So this check is actually simple. It means only DTs and DDs are allowed in that case. Optionally intermixed with script supporting elements, and then the other case is only divs. So this is what we need to check for, and that's gonna be it. Okay, so the L is not too bad. With our newfound clarity, we know how to deal with this. Must start with DT, must end with DD. Oh, let me think about it for a second, X2. Yeah, you might be right. It must start with DT. Must end with DD. Yeah. Indeed. Thank you. So flow content, it belongs to flow content. Content model is complicated, so I think we give it none. Meta, category superset is flow, attribute static, custom validation. DL, DL. Okay, no ancestry check. We don't care. No outer state. So state is searching. I guess we can do DT, DD. Yeah, searching. DT, DD, and div. And we start with searching. So if it's script and template, we continue. If it's .dt, well, .dt, dd, and div, that depends. But I guess we should yeah, I think it should be like this. DT, DD. No, I think this is fine. Then we switch state. If we're searching, switch child.kind. If it's DT, then state is .dt. If it's DD, then there is an error. But I think we should switch state anyway. And we move it to DD. Not an error, you can have 0 starting DTs. Wait, are you serious? Okay, let me see. 0 more groups consisting of 1 or more DT elements. No, you can't. You can have 0 or more groups, but each group has to start with 1 DT element or more, followed by 1 DD element or more. Yeah, don't worry, I was making this same mistake myself. X2 actually is the one who caught this nuance. So I would move the state to DD anyway, so that we reduce the amount of error spam that we make in this case. But we need to do an error. Missing child, there is no reason. Or we could do invalid nesting. We should do invalid nesting. I think we should do it this way. First child must be DT or div. Okay. If it's div, state is div. Else, we don't move state, we just complain. And interestingly, it's the same error that we can say, and we can provide and say first child must be a DT or a div. It's literally the same error. That's a curious thing. That is truly a curious thing. Okay, so in this case, we have dealt with the searching state. Okay, so now we are in DT state. Well, actually, if we've seen a DT, so the idea is that every time we see a DT, let me think about it for a moment. So when we see a DD in DT state, we move to DD. You know what? Let me gut this out. Also, this can just be deleted straight up. Okay. So searching state, DT. So DT means that we have seen a DT. So this is like a valid, an invalid end state. So I guess here we switch again. Child of kind. If it's DD, we switch to DD. If it's DT, we do nothing. Else, it's an error. Okay. DD state. Switch child of kind. DD, we do nothing. DT, we switch to DT. Also, let's put this up top also here. Else, it's an error. Then there's the div state. Oh, the div state is going to be great. If Sherlock is different than div, then we complain. Although we should also skip comments. Okay. Okay, so with this we have all of this stuff, and now we need to check the final state. So if state equals .dd, we need to complain. The problem is, where do we attach this error? Because right now, in this context where we are right now, we have run past all the children. We don't have a handle to any children anymore, and we can attach this error to the parent, but I would attach it to the last element if I have to be honest. I would attach it to, basically what I would do is that every time we see every time we see a DT, because at the end of the day, DTs are the ones that are trouble, we save it. Last DT is child.span. Actually, let's leave it undefined. Because if you are in the DT state, there we go. We don't have span. So if state is DD, no, sorry, if state is DT, oh, we don't know what the node is. Fuck. I'm realizing that there is a mistake in my code. I need to do it this way. Actually, you know what? We can even do this. So we do it this way. In DT, when we see DT, state is DT. We do all the side effects. And then in here, if we see DT, we continue to that. There you go. You implemented template already? No, I don't think I did. But template seems pretty simple, I think. Parsing wise. Okay, so the reason why I made this change is because we need to make sure that we update these values every single time we transition to DT. And I thought I was doing this correctly because I was updating this transition. But then I remembered there's also this transition here in DD. So instead of replicating the code, I'm centralizing it. And I'm just going to use I'm gonna leverage these guys. Okay, so we should be happy now. We can test this if we want. Completions. Right. What about completions? Okay, what do we want to test now? We want to test the DL DTDD stuff. Okay, DD is being complained about invalid nesting under the L. Okay, let's see. I think the problem is that DD is not. Yeah, we don't have a DD element. That's the problem. No, never fucking mind. We do have DD. What's the deal with this? We do have fucking DD. It's DT that we're missing. So DT is not. Okay, invalid nesting under the L. Why, my friend? Why? So it's on us. It's entirely on us. Was it DD? There's this. Somehow we're triggering some kind of... Wait. DD has the DD tag. Okay, so DD is fine in that sense. So what is happening? What is happening in here, huh? So we see DT, we continue to say DT. Set stuff. Go to the next child. And we see ADD. And we're in the DT state. So we say we move state to DD and we're happy. Try again. Oh, there we go. I don't remember if I ever started. Okay, invalid nesting under the L. Last child must be DD. Indeed. So now we're happy. What if I put ADD first? There we go. Invalid nesting under the L. First non-script child must be DT or div. Give it div, everything else is. Invalid nesting under the L. Only div script or template children allowed. Oh. No, well, then... no, that's actually correct. Only div. This should be... I think we should explain that there's different modes. Where is div valid under the L? Here. It's mutually exclusive. Like it's like two modes. Either DTDD or div mode. It's one of the two. So this is like div mode in DD, DT mode. There you go. Last non-script child must be DD. Perfect. And now we have, and now we get to implement completions, right? I was about to say we have to. No, we don't have to. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege. Now we get the privilege of implementing completions. Okay. So completions, we want to know most of this stuff. So we copy most of the logic, but not all of it. Well, we copy all of it, but then we're gonna get it out. Let's see. We don't care about the parent span. We do care about the state. We don't care about the last DT. We don't do errors. We just do state transitions. And even in this case, it can be a simple state transition. If we are in, and actually, you know what? This is more like, this is different. It's kind of like this. Why do you have your main monitor on the right? Wouldn't it be nice to have it in front? Well, I have two monitors. I have to have two monitors. I have the camera in front of me. So, I don't know. It works for me. Sometimes I stare at the other side, and at the end of the day, it kind of balances out. Nah, you know what? You come with me. You go here. No, separate definition. Okay. Actually, we don't do any of this stuff. We just do the breaking. It's kind of like this. Like if child.kind is .div, break with div. If child.kind is .dt or child.kind dd, and this is actually just one state. And that's it. Well, thankfully, this is much more simpler. Okay. And then if we don't see any of this stuff, it's searching, so we don't know yet what's going on. So switch state. Let's see. Searching. We really don't know anything about what's going on. So what we suggest is DT, DD, div, and the scripting stuff in this order, I think. No, I think we put div first, maybe. It's unfortunate because we cannot make one array that we slice for all combinations, because in one case we'll want DT, DD with, I guess we can put div last. But if you are in div mode, you don't want div last. You want div first. So we'll have to create a few of those things. Hey, Ethernet cable. Yeah, it's not bad having multi-monitors. Well, in my case, there's also another reason why I have two monitors. I have two computers. One is a machine that runs OBS, and the other one is the Mac machine that I work on, which also has a Linux VM in it, which I'm not using right now. But sometimes I do use that mainly. It's different periods. Sometimes I do one thing, sometimes I do the other. So let's do it this way. DD equals comp time element. Actually, we can make it a completion. So we have DT. Actually, DT goes above. Then we have div. Then we have script. Oh man. There we go. So we have script. Template. And that's it. Oh, and we're missing .desk. Okay, you know what? I'm going to put these guys down here. Okay, searching. Return one that has DT, DD, div, script, template. DT, DD, DT, DD. Actually, no, I think that is fine. Low regalias, GitHub. It's Christoph _IT. I have it on my profile on Twitch, I think. There you go. What about this repo? Oh, it's called Super HTML. Okay, but I haven't fully published this work yet. So here's the unfortunate thing. Let me think about it for a second. In reality, we should not be suggesting DD if you don't have a DT element yet. But this might be too much. The fact that we put DT first, I think it's already enough. So don't need to complicate this any further. So in this case, we don't do anything fancy with offset. Restart. Suggest the TDD script template. Correct. If it's empty, we don't know yet. So it also suggests div. In div mode, it only suggests div. Honestly, that's a deluxe experience. That's a deluxe experience, man. Okay. I think we might have... So we have a description to put and maybe some attributes? No. Did we have to do some attributes before this one? I don't remember. I'm going to check the previous one in case I forgot about its attributes. Descriptions for DL. Okay. So DL is done. Oh, right. The one before us was div, and no, div did not have any attribute. Dialog has, but I did put them there, so we're good. Okay. Attribute DL is empty set. Empty set 45. DT should be easy, right? DT should actually be like extremely passive, nothing crazy about it. The weird stuff was in DL, right? Let's see, DT. Before DD or DT elements inside of DL elements, before DT or DD elements inside div elements. Okay, so categories, none. Content model flow, but with no header, footer, sectioning content, or heading content. Descendants, okay. No attributes, etc. This is going to be a breeze to implement. Check this out. This is going to be a real breeze. So let's copy DD for DT. Okay, we're going to need to redo the description. Let's see. Categories, none. Content, flow. But there are rules. So here's how it works. Content is not going to be modeled, but it's going to be simple. And simple, we say there's a branch called nesting errors that has some of this work, but only some of it. No header footer. Okay. Also, is it descendants? So forbidden descendants. Header, footer. Sectioning content is article, section, well, section of course, side maybe, main, and maybe aside. I don't remember. Let's double check. What's sectioning content? Article, aside, nav section. Article aside, nav section. Okay, so these are the sectioning guys and heading content. So H1s through H6 and H group. There we go. These are the forbidden descendants. That's it. empty set, build. This is it. This is literally it. 46. Oops. Okay. Embed. So now, we now have these guys. So form is going to be fucky. I can already tell. Figure is also going to be fucky. Let's see embed. Oh, iframe, embed element, object element, they're like grouped together somehow. So iframe has a good chunk of attributes. But we're worrying about embed right now. So embed. Flow, phrasing, embedded, interactive. Content model, nothing. Oh, that's actually good. A few attributes. URL attribute, type of embedded source. Mime, we have that. Width and height, we have those. Any other attribute that has no namespace, C pros? What the fuck is that? If the attribute item property is specified, then the source attribute must also be specified. So there's also this rule. Supports the dimensional attributes. No, where's the random attributes? Any other attribute that has no namespace? What does that even mean? Where is it specified? I don't understand. Where is the embed element has no fallback content, its descendants are ignored, but it's a void tag. But where's the random attribute stuff? They forgot about it. See pros, and then the pros has no mention of that. What? If both the type attribute and the source attribute are present, then the type attribute must specify the same type as the explicit content type metadata of the resource given by the source attribute. While any of the following conditions are occurring, any plugin instantiated for the element must be removed, and the embed element represents nothing. And we don't care. Potentially active when the following conditions are all met simultaneously. There is no mention of those random attributes that they're talking about. Is the MDN less insane about this? Okay. I don't know. Fine. I guess we can ignore that sentence because there's nothing that helps. Well, we would need more information to be able to do something with that sentence. So, okay, what does this mean? This means that this guy doesn't have any content validation. It does have attribute validation though, because we need to enforce the source type interactions. But that's it. Okay, you know what? Since I have a meeting in a couple hours from now, I think I'm gonna stop here. And I'm probably gonna do this on my own later today. It's not a particularly exciting element, so I know that people here in chat are like salivating at the idea of seeing more HTML element action, right? Gotta catch them all after all. So I know that you guys are dying for that, but it's not particularly exciting. So I'm sure that there's more fucked up elements in front ahead of us that will be more interesting to take a look at. So well, thank you all for hanging out, and yeah, let me see if there's anybody that I should raid. Oh, nobody's doing Zig? Really? Really nobody's doing Zig? So Lucas Develops is live, but doesn't have the Zig tag. Uh-oh, Unity. Uh-oh, Lucas Develops has betrayed Zig for Unity. Is that it? Let me see. Protected override async task. Okay. Everybody, have a good day.